This has become an annual tradition on the show whenever Bet Bash is happening. Folks are super kind to come drifting over to the show, and this specifically has become an annual tradition. Matt Buchalter from Plus EV Analytics on Twitter joins us from Canada.
Morning.
How you doing, man?
Great. This is how often does a guy from Canada who does math get to be on TV live? This is a highlight of the year for me. Thanks for having me back.
Because you point out, because we're on Game Plus up there.
We are.
And you're from Toronto?
I am, yes.
Yes.
So hi everyone back home.
There it is, Matt. Let me just ask you this first of all. You're here for Bet Bash. Bet Bash so far for you? Fantastic.
As always, like Bet Bash is one of my favorite weeks of the year. It's sort of 50% professional conference, 50% fantasy camp.
Yes.
You see all kinds of people from absolute legends to just people who are getting started, and people come up to me and say, hey, I read your tweets, I read your articles, I love your stuff. There's nowhere else in the universe that I get approached, out of nowhere by people. Oh, hey. Like it's for a couple days a year, it's cool to have that.
Well, I appreciate that you love doing this as well. So now, refresh folks' memory, because I think this is the third year we've done this. 2 years ago, I want to say you had a fantastic record. Did we do well on these last year too?
We were close to break even. It wasn't great. I don't remember the exact number.
But the year before was
year
big.
before we did well, so I'm going to try and bounce back this year.
So explain to folks what your approach is to betting alternate season win totals.
Yeah, so a couple things going on. The easiest one is if you look at since 2015 up to last year, season win totals are 52.7% to the under. There's a little bit of a bias. People like to bet overs. Books know that. So really what that means is if you're betting a team's season win total under, you're basically betting vig free. You're still tying your money up for 6 months, but you're not paying any vig. If you're betting overs, you're paying double vig, you're tying your money up for 6 months. So generally like to favor unders, all else equal. Another thing that has tended to be predictive is if you have either a new head coach and a returning offensive coordinator, or a new offensive coordinator and a returning head coach. Those are 27 overs and 52 unders over since 2015. So if you look at who's in that situation this year, I believe, if my research is correct, and thank you to my German friend Suma for helping me out with the research on this one, but I've got the Bears, the Bengals, the Raiders, the Eagles, and the Bucks who are in that particular situation this year.
Repeat the situation again for those who missed it.
New head coach returning OC, or vice versa, new OC returning head coach.
Okay, so an incongruence of that. So
yes.
one is new, one is returning.
Yeah, so the idea is there's a bit of a feeling out period, and the two have to learn to work together in the system. So that tends to be a pretty strong underlook, or has been over the last few years.
Okay.
Another one, second-year quarterbacks are 19 to the over, 15 to the under, which isn't that much of a difference. But if you compare to the overall, which is skewed to the under, there's a little bit of signal there. So you look at second-year quarterbacks this year. You've got the Texans, obviously. C.J. Stroud. Bit of a weird one, because I think the idea with this is you get a lot of rookie quarterbacks who are underwhelming in their first year. People sort of give up on them, and they come back in year two and they surprise you. Not the case with CJ. He's actually getting MVP buzz, so he's not coming out of nowhere and surprising anyone. So not quite sure what to make of the Texans this year with respect to that second-year quarterback angle. You've also got the Panthers with Mr. Young. You got the Colts, Anthony Richardson, and you've got Will Levis on the Titans, who are, I believe, the exhaustive list of your second-year starting quarterbacks this year. So if you're looking for an overplay, despite the fact that you're on the wrong side of the bias here, those are the teams and quarterbacks that I would tend to look to.
Okay, that's interesting. So all of that led to some bets in both situations that you just discussed. Let's start with the one that you did last right there, right? Let's just start with the Texans and C.J. Stroud. That led you to a bet here?
Yeah, so I'm actually on the Texans to have the most wins in the NFL this year, and that's plus 2,100. So it's a bit of a long shot, 21-1, but I think there is definitely. He's got MVP potential.
Yep.
The question is, how much from his good first year? How many steps up will he take from that? And of course, you never know, but there is potential. Like if he comes out and if he wins the MVP, there's a good chance the Texans could win 13, 14 games, and live at 21-1.
At 21-1, worth a flyer. You also did a most losses.
Yeah, most losses. Apologies to my friends locally here in Vegas, but I think the Raiders at 18-1, I think, is worth a look for most losses this year. I think they're in one of those new head coach, returning OC spots, and I think if things go wrong, they could go very wrong over here in the desert.
Returning head coach, new OC. Luke Getsy, I believe, is the new OC there.
I'll take your word for it.
And so, this gets into the whole coach coordinator thing. So, that led all of that first part led you to 4 alternate season win totals plays, which again we love to bet into this market. The notion that the alternate season win totals are priced properly, probably a fallacy. And based on the way that you've done them, you came up with 4.
I've got 4.
All right,
ready for them?
Yes, please.
So my top pick is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers alt under 6.5 wins. I got it at plus 250. I think it's moved since then, maybe plus 230 or so. I still like it at that price. I'm gonna really put myself out there and say I make it plus 141.
Oh wow!
So I mean, don't take my word for it. Nobody's ever 100% right on these things, but despite some movement, I think there's still a little bit of meat left on that bone. Eagles alt under 9.5 wins. I got it at plus 215 a couple days ago. Not sure what it is now. Raiders again under 5.5 alt wins at plus 225.
Killing the Raiders.
I'm sorry. I love Vegas. It's my favorite place in the world. No personal offense needed to my friends here in Vegas. And then if you're going to play one over, I do like the Carolina Panthers.
Wow.
Alt over 6.5 wins at plus 180. I think Bryce Young, I mean, it's I've heard some not so favorable buzz. One of the Bet Bash panels, excellent panel, one of the Pro Football Focus guys on NFL preview, he was not high on Mr. Young, and I have no reason to disagree. But the potential, anybody could surprise in these second-year quarterbacks. We know what we know, but I think the range of uncertainty is a bit wider on all these second-year quarterbacks. So on the off chance that he comes out and surprises everyone, he's sort of the opposite of C.J. Stroud, where expectations are quite low. And I'm cool if the low expectations are priced into the market, and I can sort of take some of that upside on. Okay, if he's a little bit better, if he's mediocre instead of bad, that might be good enough to get them over 6.5 wins.
Here's what FTN. I know you were talking about Pro Football Focus. Here's what FTN said about Bryce Young. Their proprietary stat DYAR, 3rd worst ever recorded, just beaten out by the rookie years of Josh Rosen and David Carr. 6th all-time, 62 sacks. 3rd all-time, 477 yards lost. When he was actually able to get the ball off, 9.1 yards per completion, 9th lowest ever. Take the sack yards away from his completion, and he netted just 4.1 yards per dropback. Adjusted for era, 10th worst season ever. It keeps going. 5.5 yards per attempt without sacks was a little better, but all put together one of the 20 worst seasons of all time.
These guys know way more about this stuff than I do, so I have absolutely no reason to disagree with that. But surprisingly, I actually don't mind that, because those are the kind of things that you would think already be priced into their standard. I guess their standard win total is 5.5. It's 5.5 for a reason, and you just gave a whole bunch of good ones. Really, what I am taking a bit of a flyer on is okay. Well, what if he had some really good work in the off season? What if he went on an ayahuasca retreat and found himself?
Wow.
What if there are things that can happen between year 1 and year 2, and there are enough examples over the last decade or so. Not saying Bryce Young is going to make that leap, but I'm saying he could, and I think the fact that he could is enough to put a little sprinkle out there at plus 180.
All right, so Bucks alt win total under 6.5 wins plus 250. Eagles alt win total under 9.5 wins plus 215. Raiders alt win total under 5.5 wins plus 225, and the Panthers alt win total over 6.5 at plus 180. And then the Raiders' most losses 18-1, and the Texans' most wins at 21-1. We only have 30 seconds. Can we make the point about Robert Saleh? Because I think it's a key one.
Robert Saleh of the Jets, and I saw this on Twitter, he is favored to be both first coach fired and coach of the year. Just an example of some of these teams have a much, much wider range of outcomes than others. I think the Jets, between him and Aaron Rodgers, would be at the top of the list. So I didn't have any Jets bets I like specifically, but if you're betting alts,
that's the point.
Look at the mean green.
Yes, that's the point. That's why you should be betting alts, because of stuff like that right there. The variance might be wider than we probably think at this point for many of these teams. Matt Buchalter plus EV Analytics. Great seeing you, man.
Got you in January. We'll see how we do.
Game Plus, some Buchalter for you. Appreciate you, man.